Welcome to the video tutorial of xaitControl Creator and Emergent Lightspeed's Toolbench. In this tutorial, you will learn how to use xaitControl Creator inside of Lightspeed's Toolbench. For an in-depth look at how to use xaitControl Creator, please refer to our wiki at wiki.xaitment.com. In this tutorial, you will learn how to create an xaitControl project, how to connect a project to an entity model, and how to assign finite state machines to this entity model. Furthermore, you will get a glimpse of the Lua integration, including the AutoLua parser sending events to the finite state machine, as well as manipulating finite state machine variables. xaitControl communicates with your C++ or Lua game code using callback functions, and the game communicates with xaitControl using events. Using xaitControl's powerful user interface, you are able to model entity behaviors and control your entities inside of Lightspeed's Toolbench in a graphical manner. This gives you the full power to model state-of-the-art behaviors with the simplicity and easy readability of a graphical editor. So let's switch to the Toolbench. As you can see, I've already set up a game solution including one entity model called Entity, which you can see in the middle of the workspace. On the right, you can see two properties. Property 0, which is a float type, and property 1, which is a point3 type. Please note that 2 and 3-dimensional vector types are called vec2f and vec3f inside of xaitControl. Furthermore, this model defines a Lua behavior, which you can see here as behavior 0. So in order to use xaitControl inside of your game solution, right-click on Solution, then select Add, then New Content from the context menu. Select the xaitControl project in the pop-up window and give it a name. In this case, we'll call it xaitControl. Now let's add the directory. Now we need to add the newly created xaitControl project to our own project. To do this, we need to reference it. So we right-click on Reference and choose Add Reference from the context menu. In the pop-up window, we choose the xaitControl project, click OK, and now you can see that it is visible under References. Now you are ready to assign the xaitControl model to your own model. To do this, we locate the xaitControl model and drag and drop that model to the tutorial workspace. As you can see, it is now attached to the entity. Right now, the entity model is able to use any created finite state machine. So first, we have to assign a finite state machine we want to use for this model. Before we can do this, we need to create at least one state machine. This is similar to creating a finite state machine in the standalone version of xaitControl Creator. So we right-click on the xaitControl finite state machine and select Add FSM Set. I'll leave the default name of the finite state machine set. To add a finite state machine, we right-click on the finite state machine set and choose Add FSM. As you can see, there it is. To add another FSM, we can right-click on the FSM set again, and as you can see, we've added two finite state machines with default names. For additional information about finite state machines and finite state machine sets, please refer to our wiki at wiki.xaitment.com. In order to assign a finite state machine to a model, open the Model Mixin properties and click on the Edit Config button of xaitControl. This will open a pop-up window with a project tree. Here you can see the finite state machine set with the individual finite state machines. So let's assign finite state machine 2 to this entity. Once you click OK, you can see the changes in the Mixin Properties screen here. So now your entity is connected to the selected finite state machine. Please note the difference between an emergent model and an xaitControl model. Assigning the xaitControl model just enables the entity to use finite state machines. Thus, it is not possible to assign more than one xaitControl model to one entity. The finite state machines to be used by the entity are set in the Mixin Properties screen, as you can see here. In order to manipulate the finite state machine, just double-click on the finite state machine to be manipulated. Adding states and transitions works in the same way as in the standalone version of xaitControl. So this means that we have a start state in an empty project, and simply by right-clicking within the workspace and choosing Add State, we can add a new state to the project and give it a name. In this case, we'll use the default name. Adding transitions is also the same. We just right-click on the state and choose Add Transition from the context menu and drag the transition to the state. So to access xaitControl's functions, variables, and events, just select the finite state machine set and choose the Properties option from the context menu. Now, as you can see here, the environment window appears and is populated. Let's minimize this to make it easier to read. Functions and variables can be used inside of preconditions and post commands. Functions are used to call game code, including Lua code, while variables represent the internal memory of a finite state machine instance. Variables can be easily manipulated from the game. For example, selecting the variable from the game is just one call. It's epgm xaitControl.setVariable. As an argument, it accepts the entity ID, the name of the variable, and the value that should be set. So you're able to change the value of all variables of one entity with the same name, or you can change the values of just one finite state machine set, or even of just one distinct finite state machine instance. Adding variables is just the same as in the standalone project. Just select the Add Variable button. In this case, we'll call it Variable. You can also select the type here in the drop-down menu. And that's it for adding variables. Adding events is done in the same way. As you can see in the function tree, there are two folders. The Property Access folder defines setters and getters for editing model properties. So let's minimize this a little bit and expand the window to make it easier to read. As you can see, there are setters and getters for all types. The setters include the entity ID, property name, and the value to be set. For getters, the value is not included in the parameters. It is directly returned, which you can see here in the return type. There are setters and getters for each type. So for Boolean type, integer, integer 64, float, string, and so on. The AutoLua folder contains all of the behaviors of the entity that uses the finite state machine. At the moment, there is only the behavior 0 without any parameters, since the behavior is still empty. So let's create a new behavior for the entity to show the power of the AutoLua parser. Let's go back to the entity and let's create a new behavior. We'll give it the default name and I'll start editing it. Let's paste some code in the behavior. As you can see, I've added two variables, variable 1 and variable 2 of the type unsigned integer 64 and type string, respectively. The existence of variable 3 depends on the value of variable 2. This can be understood as a function overloading, which is represented the same way within xaitControl. So let's save the Lua script. As you can see now, the AutoLua folder is now updated and there are two new functions for behavior 01. The first one has two parameters of type integer 64 and string, while the second has three variables of type integer 64, string, and float. The AutoLua enables you to seamlessly add behaviors to your AutoLua scripts and to use them instantaneously within xaitControl. Finally, let's have a look at the events. Events are sent from the game to xaitControl to trigger possible state changes. Sending events works the same way as manipulating variables. For example, to send an event to all FSMs of one entity from Lua, just use the command epgm xaitControl.handleEvent with the entity ID and the event name. So let's review. In this tutorial, you have learned how to add xaitControl to your game solution and how to assign finite state machines to an entity. You have seen the power of the AutoLua parser as well as the ease of using xaitControl's finite state machines from your game, especially when using Lua. For more information, we recommend having a look at the Hive control demo, where you can see how easy it is to integrate xaitControl into your source code with one line of code. For even more information about xaitControl, please refer to our wiki at wiki.xaitment.com. Thanks for watching.